Good morning from St. Mary's Church. We're up in the loft, the balcony, the choir
loft.
Choir loft, but don't go away. We are not going to be singing for you. Bob Venn with what's going on here. We're here to talk about the great old organ, the church organ at the church, and we have a man here who doing the repair and is going to explain it to us, so please stay with us. But as Father Susi said, first of all, we're going to talk with him, then we're going to get to the interesting part later. All right.
That's
Father,
right.
First of all, introduce me to your man here, first of all.
This is David Rainville from Champlain, New York, who's doing most of the work on the repair of the organ. And he'll be telling you more about the details of that later, because he knows more about it.
Okay, now, when I heard about Champlain, the first thing I think of course, is Father Gaffney, your classmate.
That's just, as I told you before, that's a coincidence. That's just a coincidence.
When I talked to you yesterday, or this morning rather, about this has all been done within 18 hours that we've thought about this. I mentioned it was Shamu, but he corrected me. It's not Shamu, Dave. Okay, Father, tell us now, we've had this organ's been here a long, long time, but it hasn't really been working correct for a number of years, before you came.
Long before I came, and I think what happened back perhaps in the 70s, and maybe you might know more about that, you might have been on the parish council at the time, there was some thought of replacing it with an electronic organ.
I sure do remember that.
And they actually, I think, brought a couple of them here. They had them maybe downstairs, and a number of people were asked to see which they preferred, which was better, the old or the new. And I think John Zerlo, the father, was one of the ones who was instrumental in maintaining that this organ sounded much better, even in its decrepit state that it was then. And so they kind of did away with the thought of an electronic one at that time. I mentioned Mr. Zerlo because about 3 years ago, I guess it's going to be 3 years maybe in August, John Zerlo Jr., the third, I guess, got married, and at his reception, his uncle, Gene Zerlo, who was attending the wedding, of course, and I think they live down in New York now, asked me about the organ, if there's any thought on repairing it at the time. And I said, well, I'd love to do it if I had the money. He says, well, if I were to give you a donation of $5,000 to start that fund, would you consider starting such a fund? I said, consider it started. And he was very good to his word and true to his word, and within a couple weeks, I think he had sent me a check for $5,000, not me, but the parish, a check for $5,000. And we started the organ fund, and I contacted, through checking around the diocese, perhaps St. Patrick's and Rouse's Point. Your predecessor worked there, didn't he,
yep.
David? What's his name?
Fred Napton.
Fred Napton, who was from Kingston, Ontario, and he had done the work there, and I think David used to work with him, and now it's kind of taken over. He can tell you more about that later. Anyway, we got a hold of David, and he came and gave us an estimate on the repair of the organ for about $32,500. So
$32,500?
Yep, and we put up one of those thermometer things downstairs and mentioned it to the parishioners, what we were hoping to do. It didn't have any kind of a monster drive or anything, just let them know what we needed and what we hoped to accomplish. And over the last 2 years, we've pretty well met our goal. We're very, very close to it, in fact. And we're very appreciative of the many generous people that have given. Some people have been able to give thousands of dollars or $1,000, some 25, 50. We're happy to get whatever we can. And it's all added up, so we pretty well got enough. And if we go over, of course, we'll be happy with that, because we can use anything left over to maintain the organ afterwards, which is very, very important, as I'm sure David will probably point out to you. It's one thing to get it fixed, but if you don't keep it in good repair, then you're going to be in the same trouble a few years down the road. So we want to make sure not only that it gets repaired well, but that it stays under good repair.
You know, you mentioned Eugene Zerlo taking after the great training from his father John and mother Louise from Rouse's Point,
right.
and brothers, but he learned it from his mom and dad. And after he got out of college, he never really worked around this area at all. He went west and other places, and this is the second thing that he has helped to finance. And we're not trying to get more jobs for him to finance, but he just financed a book about Point Affair that's being written and put out this month by Dr. Everett from Everett Allen from Plattsburgh, and I saw in our recent national, our society, Clinton County Historical Society, Alan Everest. I got you there. I see in the phone book, and it's Alan Everest, who wrote many books on the area. And he is writing a book about Point Fair. And of course, the Zerlos had a camp out there, so he's very interested there, too.
I think he comes every summer and spends some time with the
Correct.
camp.
Okay, well, Father, we know you've got to go off. Is there anything else you want to tell us? You know where the church got the organ. We're going to leave that to David.
I think it came from Ticonderoga, a Presbyterian church down there, and I believe it was the 1930s, maybe, that it was brought to St. Mary's.
Okay, you have something here. We'll review it.
I pretty well just what I just told you. There was a smith that brought it up, and it used to be thought that William Smith actually built it, but I think he just put his name tag on it after he maybe helped move it or somewhere along the line he did something, and so it probably wasn't. Who was the original?
Jardine, supposedly the original builder.
Jardine?
Yeah.
Out of New York?
Jardine and Son. Yes, I believe so.
Let me tell you how our program...
I was just going to say, it's probably built in the 1870s or maybe early 1880s.
Okay. Tell you how something just happened. You know, we plan sometimes it's 6 months to 8 months before we can get someone lined up. Well, yesterday my wife came home, Teresa came home, and she said, Bob, you ought to go down and look at some of the dates that the man working on the organ has found. You might want to put them in some kind of a record. So I came down and he showed me, and he had already written them down. And I said, this could be interesting. And so I asked him, and he said, yeah. I said, well, maybe in 3-4 days I'll get back to you. And I talked to Calvin yesterday afternoon, and we found out he had an opening this morning, and I never got back to Dave until after 8:30 this morning, and here we are just after 9:30 and raring to go. He's just chafing at his bit to get in here and talk to we people. Anything else?
No, that's great. Thank you for doing
Okay, well, thank you very much, Father.
Right. I want to thank all the people that donated.
Okay, or anybody else that wants to.
Absolutely.
To buy music and so forth. Okay, have a good day. Thank you. Okay, we're upstairs now, and the lights here are a little bit different all around, but so we hope you're getting some relatively good lighting without too many shadows. And David, I thought he pronounced it Rainville, but it's Rayville.
It's Rayville, yeah.
R-A?
R-A-V-I-L-L-E.
Okay, that's a new name for us here, but I was talking to Giselle Rainville yesterday, who used to live in Black River, and they taught, and she said, I know of the Rayville name in Chameau. Do you know Giselle or Don Rainville?
I met Don in the Old Times Cafe the other
Is that
last
right?
week.
Okay.
We chatted a bit.
Well, see, this is how things happen, and she mentioned the name. I said, well, I had written it down myself because I was going to put a Y in there or an I. All right. Tell us a little bit about David, and this is not something that every other person on the street can do.
Well,
I don't mean can, does, I should say, right?
okay.
All right. Well, what's your background, Dave, and where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Central New York. Went to school at Potsdam State, and met my wife there, and got married in '85. Was working part-time at the time, being single. You could get away with that. And Mr. Napton from Glen Burnie, Ontario, was rebuilding the organ at St. Mary's Church in Potsdam, where I was a parishioner.
Mm-hmm.
The choir director there had me help him to tune the instrument for the final dedication. And I went on to help him tune some of the other organs in the area. He had a new job starting in Norwood, and I had a new wife, and he said, do you want a full-time job? I said, yes. So I apprenticed with Fred for 5 years, and things got increasingly busy for him in Canada, so he went over there, and I started up my own business here.
So he was in this area before he went to Canada. He was a U.S. citizen?
No, he is. He's a British citizen, actually. He apprenticed under the old system over in England, and as a young man, actually very young man, and came to Canada, came to North America as a representative for Hill, Norman and Beard company from London, and worked for them for several years here as their representative, and then went on his own.
We're going to take a short break, but before we do that, just a couple more questions. Number one, Potsdam State, Crane School of Music. Wait, are you a music major?
No, actually my degree's in photography.
Photography? And then, so now you're doing music, huh? You have to have an ear. Do you tune these machines after
yes.
You picked that up since?
2.5 months out of the year I'm tuning.
Okay. We don't want to ask you how old you are, but when did you get out of Crane? How long have you been in this altogether?
Well, altogether, closing on 8 years now.
Okay, so you've been roughly 3 years on your own, so to speak?
Yeah, 2.5, yeah.
All right. We will be right back. We'll give Calvin, who's got the camera there, a chance to take a short break with that camera on his shoulder. Doing a lot of programs this week, pre-Christmas, all the Christmas shows, and we're really busy. I shouldn't say we. Today I'm relatively busy. We've got 3 places to go, but other than that, it's Calvin and Sam doing all of these programs, and we hope you stay tuned to Hometown Cable. Of course, you will bear with us. Nothing is picked up for us. Everything is just the way he works at it. He's not bothered up here, and there's cards all over, and we got limited room. When this first came up, did someone contact Napton, or did they contact you? Do you remember?
No, I was still working for Fred at the time.
That long ago?
Pardon?
How long ago was this?
It was a few years ago.
That they first contacted you about this job?
We were working over in Rouse's Point at the time.
Yes, I understood that.
St. Pat's. And, well, actually, Fred was working there. I just did a few things there. I was working down in Central New York. And several times, actually, we were asked to come over and look at the organ. And we finally did get a chance to. And did another survey. It might even have been a year after that. Seems like there was quite wide spaces between these.
But you work on your own, or do you still work with him? So to speak?
I still work with Fred every now
Okay,
and
so
then, yeah.
is this contract yours or his?
Mine.
Okay, so then when did you come up with this price of $32,500?
Oh,
Within the past year?
year and a half ago.
Okay. How in the world
I've
do
been
you...
here for a year.
You've been working on this for a year.
Yes, it's taken a lot longer than I thought.
We're not telling people that you spent all that time just working on this one job. You have other jobs working, right?
Well, like I said, I spent about 2.5, close to 3 months doing tunings
Tunings, yes.
in the last year.
Okay.
And I got a bit stretched out over time.
And this makes a bit of a kind of a problem. You come here, you got to get a place to eat and sleep, and that's right. It's hard to estimate a job. You don't just come up with a figure like that. You must figure the number of hours you expect.
It's scary to estimate a job.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, that's something I'm very new at. And the fact that this took, well, easily 5 months longer than I thought it was
That
going
much
to
longer,
is
yeah.
evidence of that.
Okay. Now, this overall size of this organ is, as you can look, it's probably, 12 feet across?
Yeah.
Would you say you can
The
see
chests are
roughly
7
12?
feet.
It probably is as deep.
Yeah.
And it's up here in the choir loft. It's large. It's overall height here has got to be 18 feet or more, straight up. And it's just full of mostly wooden or brass parts and a few metal rods.
Yes, for the most part. The old tracker organs were made mostly with wood.
All right. If you could grab that light and kind of show it here. And everything in here was taken apart.
Yes, and it's entirely dismantled down to the frame.
Okay. How many pipes would there be in an organ like this?
How many pipes?
Well, like, any idea?
Well, 50.
Yeah, you come over here so you could, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, what do we have here? 8 ranks in each division, plus the pedal, which is 27. It's 48, 59, 50, 58 times 8.
Well, you're talking roughly 400.
58 times 16, sorry.
Oh, you're talking nearly 1,000
Yeah.
individual pipes. If you look way back, you can see what a pipe is. They run in all kinds of sizes. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
They run in everything from a half-inch diameter.
Well, your pipes start out, say, an 8 foot as a unison rank,
That's 8 feet long,
where the bottom note of that, the speaking length, is 8 feet.
right?
And then you've got 56 notes that have in size as you go up.
Okay, so they come in groups, and is that right? There's a group that goes for each one of these.
Yes.
Okay.
A rank or a style
All right.
pipe.
We're not going to learn how to play an organ, but on the other hand, now, for instance, when you push one of these, what happens?
Okay.
Can you?
well,
Is that the wrong air? We have no idea which way we're heading in this time.
This is a mechanical organ.
Okay.
Okay, it's called a tracker organ, which means that there is an actual physical connection between the key and that motion is conveyed through various types of actions back to a pallet that sits underneath where the pipes are. Look over here, I can show
Okay.
you. This is a half of the pedal organ here that I was working on the other day. These are the pallets under here. And when they open up, you can see a chamber down in there, and the wind that is in here will then go into that chamber and down to its individual pipe.
Now, the wind is caused by the pumping of the feet?
Used to be.
Long
Time ago.
Yes.
Time ago.
And now it's what, electric?
Yeah, that was one of the items that was bought for this job.
So
In the
it
back
wasn't
there.
before? It didn't have electric before? It is now?
Yes, there was a blower down in the basement, but that was pretty far gone and sitting in about 6 inches of water, so we thought maybe a new blower would be indicated.
Okay.
The new blowers are quite a bit smaller and a lot quieter. So
And where are the blowers?
we put it right in the back of the organ.
Where were they before? In 6 inches of water?
Down in the
In the
basement.
basement?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this Marge Norcross, with her applied kinesiology, will be very happy because she plays for weddings here and other people play, and she'll be very happy to know. So she won't have to use her feet anymore, or it'll be all fake with her feet pumping. Huh? Just to keep...
She was
Because
just putting you on.
she probably can't play with that without pumping her feet. All right, so these are all... Is this wood?
Yes.
That's wood.
You go from the pallet to a pull down that goes to the exterior of the chest. You can just see the bottom of it there.
Yes.
All right, and then on this section, there's a piece that goes down to a square,
Right.
an action square. Another piece that goes from the other side of the square
And that's also wood. Look, they run across.
over
Completely underneath.
under here
Yep.
to another square,
Yep.
and then a piece that goes from the other end of the square down to the pedals.
Are the organs pretty much the same no matter where you go?
It's variations on a theme.
Okay, basically the theme is the same, basically with wooden rods and things?
What you have to accomplish is the same. How different builders come up with ways to do that is frequently very interesting and a little bit different too. I was wondering, Smith put his name on this organ, and normally a man wouldn't do that just for moving it. I suspect that he changed this pedal organ around a bit.
Uh-huh.
This pedal section, because the squares and the way that it's constructed is completely different from squares. There's another set of squares you can see right back here.
Can you move that light off to the side to still get to see it maybe here? Where is that now?
It's just behind
It's behind there.
this row of
All right.
stickers.
Now, as I look at these upright things, they appear to be threaded on the end. Does that mean you adjust? That's how you adjust this? Whenever one of those, hold this a minute, every one of these little pieces right here, it's threaded, and there's a little nut that goes on, like here. This is what we're talking about, and it's wired to this piece of wood. And of course, something like this could break relatively easy. I don't know. You can't push pressure sideways.
No.
And you put these together and make them up, and if something problems and so forth.
Well, these are this job is restoration, and as much as is here is we try to keep.
Okay. Now the main frame. Maybe I'll let you hold that again. The main frame is this piece right here that was not removed. That's what, maybe a 6x6 or something like that.
The frame. All right, what you're looking at right here is the
Yes.
great chest.
Okay, the great chest.
Yeah, and there's two divisions on this organ, the grate and the swell. The swell is enclosed. That whole section there will have louvers, shutters on it, that are controlled by a foot pedal down here. And that's the only way that you can get an increase or decrease in volume on an organ, is to open and shut this box that those pipes are enclosed in. The grate's unenclosed. So this is a chest here. The wind chest is down below it and holds the air. There's channels that run all the way across it. And let's say, well, right about in here would be middle C. This note here.
Right.
When you held this note down, it would pull the pallet down inside there that would allow air into each of the middle C's on every rank all the way across. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the only way for air to get from the chest up to the pipe is by pulling one of your stops here, one of the draw knobs. There's a board that's in between, right in through here, underneath each rank, and the holes are offset when the stop is off. When you pull the stop on, they line up, and that allows the air to go through.
Now, when you had originally came here,
Yes.
everything in here, you could have walked right to the back wall. Everything was out of there. and put someplace except for the big main frame itself?
No, when I came here, it was...
No, but I mean when you finished taking everything apart, everything
Yes.
came out of there, in other words, like an
Yes.
open room. And then you've been gradually putting it back together. How long are you to completion?
Well, the organ itself is
You'd like
pretty
it to be
well
tomorrow,
done.
I know.
Oh, it's been well. What it's down to now is the pipe work.
Okay. Well, we're going to go over and look at some of those pipes, because there you can see more. I noticed some in the back have wooden handles on the top, little things. Do they all have one of those on top?
No, you can get different sound characteristics from a pipe depending on the construction of the pipe.
Now, did those have those before? Okay, so you didn't add anything like that. Okay. Do they get bent or?
Well, they get fairly bashed up over the years, yeah.
But only with air passing through them? Only.
No, from tuners going in. And
Oh,
bashing
okay.
them up.
All right. All right. Now, before we go over there and see those, a couple things that you had written down here. You found some names written,
Yeah,
hidden inside of here.
yeah. These are different builders that have worked.
I shouldn't
on
say
things
hidden,
in the
but where they
past.
weren't in full view. And how did that come about? For instance, one of the names here you have is
James Brown.
James Brown, Virginia, 1876, August the 12th.
Right underneath this cap here. We
Right.
found his name and that date, and we think it was probably he was the one that built this rank of pipes and voiced them.
Okay.
It's a 16-foot bourdon, which means that the top has a cap. Well, there's the box of them over there. Box cap stoppers.
Okay, then what do they do?
When you put a stopper in a pipe, you can double its effective speaking length.
I
So
see.
this is this bottom C speaks a 16-foot.
You
C.
realize that this German you're talking, or Hungarian, we're not understanding a lot, but we're not here for a lesson completely in how to understand music. But,
Put a stopper in it, and it'll sound an octave lower.
okay. All right. So he put his name back in there. And you found another one by the name of Wolf. It was
Yeah.
1876.
The great chest, this chest here.
So was in behind or something, you said, behind
it's
there?
on the bottom of this bottommost
Okay.
board, underneath a couple of other things.
Most likely, was that the man that built that, or you think it was he?
I would suspect it was, yeah.
Okay. And then you told me that before you get finished, or if you haven't already done it, you're going to put your name somewhere on here with a date,
I've
right?
hidden it, yeah.
You've hidden it. See, he's already got his name in here, and they're going to remember you 100 years from today.
Well, they'll be thinking of me looking over their shoulders like I think of them.
Can you tell me, or give you any estimate whether this has ever been done before, where it's been completely renovated like this
Well,
in the 100 years?
one of the dates was inside of also the great chest.
Yes.
William Smith and William
Rubinson, Reaubinson,
yeah.
November 8th, 1912.
Now, if this organ
Or
was
13.
moved in the 30s,
Yes.
I haven't found any dates in the 30s, but if it was moved in the 30s, here Smith has been working on it quite a bit before then. So he may have renovated this chest, done the same job that I've just finished on it.
Okay, the word was, and one of the ones we talked about yesterday when I came in for 5 minutes or so, was that, as Father mentioned, it came from the Presbyterian Church, but you had some thoughts that something strange, because you found something in here that indicated a Catholic Church, and what was that,
Yeah.
Dave?
Well, the pipes that you can see in there with the stoppers in the top,
Yes,
you can see the red felt.
yes,
Frequently we pack that out to make that stopper snug with paper, and we found a very cheap source of paper and very good source of paper is church bulletins. So when we were working on those stoppers, we did find a church bulletin in one of them, and the bulletin was from St. Mary's Church in Ticonderoga.
okay, here, and you said that in order to get good paper, and, because this gives you a little extra thickness when you want to
Yep.
level something or fill it in, and this is a bulletin from St. Mary's Catholic Church, and you see they've been folded, and as I mentioned, it didn't mean that maybe the person was in the Catholic Church, was a Catholic working in the Presbyterian Church, and said that'd make an awful good lining for my pipe organ, and brought a couple of them. It's happened. We have
Oh, yes.
a way of knowing. But you said you used paper also, correct?
Yeah.
Like I think you told me you had put some right along under here.
Between the bearer boards and the top board here, you have to shim it up with paper sometimes to get the right tolerance for the slider to move.
Okay.
And when I have to do that, I go down and find a bulletin.
A church
and,
bulletin.
Try to find some people's names and the date of that time and the church's name and glue that under there someplace.
So if he's still looking for bulletins to put in here, you want to make a donation, and Father puts your name in a church bulletin the next several weeks, then maybe you could be part of the organ, correct?
That's right.
All right. We're going to, is there anything else you want to show us here that we can understand? How many moving parts, or how many parts would you say there are in an organ like
I
this?
don't want to think about it.
5,000?
A lot.
A lot?
Great deal.
Well, we've already figured there's 1,000 pipes alone, and we're going to see some of those over there much closer. They're all different lengths, correct? And they all got different purposes, of which I know nothing about whatsoever.
Oh, I should mention it. I finally did find Jardine's name on the organ, and I looked for a long time. I was finding all these other names, and it was on the top of this bottom C key on the grate. Just very small, just Jardine.
The man who made it originally.
Yeah.
That is Jardine, right? All right. Now, do they sit to play this? Yes, I guess you do it, but you're sitting way back here, and you're. And now they have to use their feet in order to help work on these. So they're not really pumping air; they're really playing notes. Those are notes.
Separate rank of pipes.
Okay.
There.
Sorry, Marjorie.
What I'm working on now, you can couple what you've got on the swell or on the grate and couple that down to the pedal organ.
Okay.
And that's this action that I'm putting in here.
Okay.
Put these on, hold the key down. And you'll see that
Okay.
it also,
It pulls the key. Yep.
and that's all mechanical.
Yeah.
It's done mechanically.
You know, I met most of the time when I'm in places, I don't know much what I'm doing, and this I'm completely foreign to an organ, and I'm not a musician. I do play the radio and the TV.
I play that quite a bit.
You
too.
play that pretty well, huh? All right. We hope that you'll enjoy this organ. But you said it could use this Christmas Eve, but they probably are not going to, right?
Well, we gave them the option to put as many pipes as we could in before Christmas Eve, but Father said no.
No, there's no big
Do
hurry.
it right the
Okay.
first time, and
All
that's
right.
fine with
Yeah.
me.
This is going to. Is it going to sound a lot different after than what it did?
It won't sound appreciably different, no.
They're going to come looking for you and your $32,000.
Well, we're not changing the pipe work at all.
Okay.
I can get in a lot of trouble from the Oregon Historical Society by
Okay.
rearranging tonally or physically.
All right.
track
So
work.
what? But won't it? I thought that reason was that they didn't get the right notes out or something before. Was that adjustment or tuning, or
Well, yes, it
was
was
more
an
than that
adjustment.
when you were rebuilding?
The reservoir, where can you, well,
The reservoirs where the air is kept. Is that?
yes, it's kept there and given a pressure there. This very large thing back here
Uh-huh.
was split all along the back side so that the air being delivered up to the pipes wasn't pressurized, it was still static.
But now, is that a canvas on there you have put that holds the air in? Is that
It's leather.
leather?
Yep.
You see that white? So that whole thing is holding a whole bunch of air that's being pumped from that new pump you put in.
Double rise reservoir.
Okay.
Completely redone.
Please stay with us. We're at the St. Mary's Church looking at the church organ up in the choir loft, and we'll be right back here. We're talking with David Rayville from Chameau, New York. I love that. It's pretty like calling someone Chloe. I think of those two together. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us on Hometown Cable. While we were moving over to this position, Dave opened up that item from Ticonderoga. We thought it might have a date, and you found it was a...
It looked like a song sheet.
Okay, so it doesn't really have a date, so we can't go much on there. That Calvin wanted to know a date, and we just took a chance, and it wasn't, and we finished tearing it. All right, you were talking a little bit about historical, and there's organ groups that you have to follow a little bit?
Well, we try to follow their guidelines in that if we want to work on organs that are worth restoring.
What they're saying is you can't just chop this organ up and
No.
it's got some historical value.
And it had not deteriorated to the point where it was worth chopping up.
Okay.
I have been to organs in the past, and probably 30, 40 years ago this wasn't thought about too much. They did pretty much as they pleased. And I tuned an organ down in Sherburne, New York, down in central New York, which was a Grand Old Johnson, which is another builder from this area. And it was a tracker. It is no longer. The pipework is still there, thankfully. But
Are these organs available today? Can you get a wooden all like this rather than the little electronic one?
oh, yes. Oh, yeah. There are some very good companies around, and some of the new companies that are starting up are now going back to making tracker organs because of their reliability. There's not as well. Let's say instead of a wooden tracker, they'd use fiberglass or aluminum, and because of that, and because of being able to machine it better, they're quite a bit smaller. The actions are quite a bit smaller.
Now, what about the person that says, $32,000? You could have bought a brand new organ like that for $32,000 wood. It didn't have to be electronic. That don't make sense to you? What are we talking about to buy an organ today? Any idea?
We've used a figure of $10,000 per rank of pipes
All right.
to buy from a reputable company.
And how many ranks of pipes do we have?
16 plus a pedal,
So there's 16 times
10,000.
10. Okay, that's $170,000 basically.
Oh,
Right?
that would be very basic, yes.
Yeah. So you're talking $250,000 at least. Huh?
Yeah.
So, and we're going to have one, let's say, nearly as good, and it's got some history behind it besides, right?
Yes.
It goes well with our church.
It will be pipes that people have been baptized and married and buried to here for
Correct.
decades.
Well, mine was buried here, and that's going to be 40 years very quickly.
There you go.
There you go. See, yes, that played here then, and I remember my wife's aunt came up here and played this while someone else sang, and it does have a lot of meaning.
The electronics are very good these days, especially with the digital that they got out, but it's like anything else electronic. The minute you buy it, it's obsolete.
Right.
20 years from now, you're looking at buying a completely new organ. And I don't know too much about the Plattsburgh area. Our closest repairman in Watertown is Syracuse. He covers Syracuse, Binghamton, Utica, Watertown.
How many people are you in, let's say, the northern half of the state, from the thruway north, who can tune or work on organs like this? Are there a lot?
No, I could probably think of half a dozen
All right.
in the state.
Right, half a dozen or so. Then, so organs do go from church to church. So obviously, this came out of Ticonderoga,
Yeah,
and
quite
unless
likely.
they're burned, and the church, something happened, like the church across the street, the Methodist church is no longer there. They must have had some organ, and they must have gone to some other church. I would assume,
Yeah.
they closed up 3 churches and made one,
Oh.
a brand new church. I think they went electronic, but I'm not sure. All right. Now, what are we looking at here? Maybe grab one of these. Am I going to hurt this if I pick this up?
Oh, I hope not.
All right. Now, this is very, very light, and that's metal, right?
Yeah,
And it's not brass, or it is brass?
No, there's some combination of zinc and tin.
Okay. Now, tell us about this. Now, this stands up like this?
No, it stands up like
Oh,
this.
well, there you go. See? This is all right. So it stands up like this, and now what happens? The air comes into the bottom,
Yeah, it comes into the bottom.
all right? And it comes out of here,
Yeah, passes. It's just a whistle.
a bunch of whistles,
Just a
yeah?
collection of whistles.
Sure, that sounds easy.
Different
Do that
sizes.
again. There you are. Yeah.
And different types of metal.
We'll give you different sounds.
Will give you different sounds.
And there's all sizes of these. I hope these aren't numerical order. They all got numbers on them. But see, here's the smaller one. Now this one, was it made like this on top?
Well, it was made to be cone tuned. See where this one has a slide on the top that moves up and down.
That's how you tune it?
Yeah, you lengthen it or shorten it. Oh, and by the way, this type of slide, this looks like the Belknaps from Malone had been here at one time. A couple. I've been to a couple jobs where they worked in.
And you can tell by seeing the
Well, I just suspect
way they do it. Okay.
Whereas this, you have to open up this hole to make it flatter or close it down.
And when you're tuning one of these and you've got these, how many do we think, 1,000? You have to touch every one of them, maybe? No? Don't touch.
Yeah.
In a certain order?
Yes, there's a method to it.
How do you go back there and touch that? You must have some helper who can push the key.
Oh, yes. The tuning assistant is of the utmost importance.
He pushes the keys. That tells you
That's
what
right.
key. Push number 12, Frank. All right. Let me put this back where it was. Now, these come in all sizes and all shapes, width, diameters, heights, and you can see them. And here they are all through here. And what are these?
What's this from?
Is that also one?
This is from the Great Melodia.
Is that also air go through there?
Yeah, and you see these things in the bottom?
Yes.
They've shoved pieces of wood up in there to regulate how much air is going up through it.
And they have an opening right here where the sound comes out.
It works on the same principle, just a different material they've used.
Can you imagine making one of these from scratch? Of course, one piece at a time, right?
did for a
Now,
while.
if I may just get around here, can you tip that side, maybe put this back where it goes before we get you all... I'm sorry, you made...
Fred did. That was part of what he did when he was apprentice.
You mean to replace one that was already in, or to build a new organ?
Building new stops, yeah. Hill, Norman and Beard in England was quite a large company.
Yeah. And he still works, right? Napton still is
Yes.
working at this?
Yeah.
And you go for him for pointers once in a while? He's your mentor?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Have you ever taught him anything?
Well, I rather doubt it. The only time I see Fred's excited is when he finds some new problem that he hasn't seen before, or hasn't seen in 10 years.
Yeah. Now, what we have here, I don't know. Can you tip? Are those all individual? Okay. Now, what are those?
These are the rack boards from the great organ. The pipes sit in these.
I see. So the cone shape goes down until it hits and it holds there. And there's, if you'll see, there's some of the different size of the cones that go in. Some of the many hours and days that Dave has been here to do. By the way, that this is not part of the organ on the wall. Tell you that. And to get this here, I think when you heat this up, this gives a certain, don't give a certain sound that you can match. That's coffee. All right. Now, there's a big board over there. Is that also a holder?
That was one of the feeders from when the organ was hand pumped.
All right, so that's not used now.
No, that's vestigial.
So you take it right out of there, right? Now, these big ones that I call brass in there, these are the ones that you see that a face.
Yeah.
It looks like a pool cue rack in the front of that organ up there. You see those spaces, the stand. That's what these organ pipes rest against. Yeah. And when you think that's what the music is coming out of, it's only part of it, correct?
Well,
or does it flow through here?
Some of those pipes are speaking pipes. That would be the bottom. Oh, gosh, how many is it? Oh, 7 or 8 notes of the open diapason on the grate. The middle section.
Wait, I want to hear that again. Say that again with those last few words you said.
The great open diapason.
Well, of course.
Great organ. And that's probably the bottom C there. Is that 8 feet?
That's a lot more than 8 feet.
Yeah, that's, okay.
That's probably
tuning
12.
slot is
okay.
down a bit from the top.
Now, when these sounds are emitted from each one of these pipes, each individual sound, each pipe, you don't go to a central point where it comes out. They all emit their sound from right where they are, and the sound comes out of that particular spot?
Yes.
Okay, so they don't come out of a speaker or anything like that. It's all out of right exactly where they are.
No,
and it comes out of the top, most likely, right?
Yeah, but this is a very interesting loft in here. I've noticed working over here, if someone would come in on the other side there, it's just like they are standing right behind you. It's a very odd sensation. So I think that the way that this is constructed, Catholic churches in general have excellent acoustics.
Okay.
I'm very much looking forward to hearing this organ play again.
Are these some of the tools of your trade here?
Oh, some of the various products I use, yeah.
So
this is a, it's a black lead graphite in solution, and it's a lubricant. It's used extensively throughout the organ.
So it has graphite, like you said, in it, right?
It's just graphite suspended in alcohol.
So is this something you bring with you?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have a lot of your own things up here. The bench.
I haven't got too many tools here.
The bench, and then you got a little. Is this a meter to check?
That came out of the.
Looks like something I'd have in my car for my.
This is the main board.
Oh, okay. And what does this do? This gives you the indicator.
Shows that there's
which way the wind is blowing, in or out,
wind
right?
or not, if you can.
Okay. Well, as I asked you yesterday, this was just a question, and I must have surprised you, but where's your drawing so you know where every one of these parts go back, Dave?
Well, when I start a job, I take notes as to what comes out first and, what I'm doing. Each part that comes out, I mark as to its orientation, how it fits in the organ, which sides and front and back, rear. For instance, all of these are numbered just down at the bottom.
They are numbered.
Yeah,
and you've numbered them, or were they numbered before?
Oh, so you'll find, a lot of these things were numbered because smith had to do something in order to put it back together.
Right. Now we have these new ones you
Those
made?
are new, yeah.
You made those.
Mhm.
And those are round rather than the octagon, I guess, shape.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm not sure what type of wood they used here. It looked like they just
but it'll do the same thing. Yeah.
whittled down some rods. I just went down and got some dowel.
Uh-huh. And whittled it down. All right. Does your wife see you very often with all these long trips you're making?
Not too much this year, actually, but that's part of the business, I guess.
Okay. We'll take a short break and be right back. You're watching Hometown Cable. What's going on here on this Sunday? We're at the St. Mary's Church in Champlain, New York, and we're talking with David Rayville. I nearly said Don Rayville.
Don Rayville, yeah.
David Rayville. Same initials, same smile. Calvin's up now, up on top of the great rack board or something. What is he?
On the great cheese on the walkboard right
The big
now.
walkboard up
Between-
inside of the organ.
Yep.
With the camera, I can't see exactly. But tell us what he's doing there now, Dave.
Well, let's see. He's having a look at some of the pipes in the back of the swell. You can see how they're sitting in there in the rack boards. That's times a few more ranks what I'll be seeing when I go up in there to tune later.
Oh, so this is that you don't tune it till you get it all back together.
Well, we kind of rough tune each rank as we go just to see how things are going. When this was put in, they kind of pushed extra pipes in. They were getting so beat up toward the top, the smaller pipes.
Uh-huh.
They needed a little bit extra length to tune, so they pushed an extra one in. So it won't be really until we get all the pipe work in that we can figure out just where we're going to go with it.
Okay. He's kind of turning now and looking.
The board that goes in front through here?
Yeah, there's a series of shutters, vertical shutters. They're attached to a rod that goes down, across on a lever, down to a pedal. Again, it's a physical mechanical action that moves everything in this organ.
So that kind of means that is sealed off back there, or closed off, so
Yep.
air gets in and out, but
You can
doesn't.
shut it right up.
Okay.
And the better the swell box is, the better the construction, the better control you're going to
Okay.
have over
Now,
volume.
He's more or less looking at a floor up here now,
Now,
right?
this is the great chest,
Uh-huh.
the individual toe boards.
So there'll be more pipes in here.
Oh yeah, yep. This will be full.
Yeah. You see that rack to your right there, Calvin? It's got a few indentations there. That's to stand some more pipes up, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's the
Telltale
old-
sign.
The Obogamba.
And there's some off to the left, the same way, a little bit higher though. They're up higher.
Those were pipes that they couldn't fit on the chest itself, so they have a little separate block down there, and there's tin wind conveyances that go from the chest to the block.
Right. Here's another one here I'm holding. This one has a much narrower piece at the top. It comes up to a pipe like is. That's a different.
Yeah, it's almost like a chimney. It's a
Yeah.
chimney flute. It's semi-stoppered. Oh, you can see also in the mouth of it there.
Yeah.
See how it's arched.
Oh, back there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
that will
this-
give you a different sound.
This
also.
one, if you'll notice, has a very small hole on the bottom, much smaller than some of the others we've seen. A different type. And okay, anything else that he should see up there?
Well,
just
you
the
should,
frame and
you
all.
should definitely look out over the church because
yes.
your average parishioner will not get this view.
Yes, looking down into our beautiful church. And this is what the choir sees when they're, well, of course, not up where Calvin is, but where Dave and I are standing in this beautiful church in St. Mary's, which someone yesterday said it's nearly time for another paint job. They mentioned. We were talking, and
Are these boxes, the sound that goes through them too?
Boxes.
Right here, there's holes in the bottom.
That's the pedal board end. That's a rank of pipes. That's the only rank that is exclusive to the pedal organ.
Those wooden, those are pipes?
Yep.
those big wide things are pipes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Must
Very
give a real
they're-
bass sound there, huh? Is that a bass?
Oh, I imagine they're going to bellow pretty good, yeah.
We hope you are enjoying this. This is a very unusual, very different show, I must admit. And it won't be of interest to everybody because everybody's not into music and things like that. But step back here just a little bit, Dave.
Another 5 feet.
Back up another. Yeah. But we want you to know that we're trying to bring you a little bit of everything. And this is something that's going on in our community. And we have a man here that's very professional, very different in what he does. And are there some mornings when you wake up here that you don't feel like coming and working this organ? Like when we didn't want to go to work someday?
Well, not getting up so much when I look at the 48th note, and I know I got 56 more to go. You know, it's kind of,
yes, it's been long, huh?
You go day to day.
Yeah. Well, Calvin will be coming down here, but certainly we appreciate your time in talking with us here. And one of the questions I asked Dave yesterday, I must tell you this. He said, yeah, he said, I guess so. That would be good. I said, well, before I do that, for the benefit of my parishioners, are we paying you by the hour or are we paying you by the job? And when I knew he was going to pay for this interview because he did it by the job, I said, well, we'll come and see you. Do you remember that?
I remember
Did you feel offended when I asked you that yesterday?
Not at all.
I hope not. Thank you, Dave, very much. You're watching Hometown Cable, and we meet some very pleasant people. The reason I donate my time is because meeting people like Dave, I may never see him again, but I hope I do. But meeting people like this and seeing these different things are of big interest to me. I wish I'd have known this many years ago, some of the things I'm learning today. Calvin will be coming down and we'll close this show off, and thanks much. And if you're not already a patron to Hometown Cable to keep this kind of program coming on, don't forget, send $12 or more to Box 180, Champlain, New York, 12919. You'll be glad you did. And remember, it is Christmas.
We're going to make our final closing on this segment in a moment. We wanted to show you the blower back here that provides the air that Dave mentioned earlier, and it follows the pipe and goes into what we saw from the front, which is sort of like a bellows. You see the white canvas there that Dave said he put on. And Dave did tell us off camera, for you people who are aware of Tom Rayville in the area, that he is a distant cousin. Tom Rayville, a fine golfer at Bluff Point in Plattsburgh. He's more often than not, the annual champion there at Bluff Point. So David does have a relative in our nearby area in Plattsburgh. This is where the air comes from that helps provide the sound in the organ. We're going to go out and finish up now with Bob and Dave.
Dave mentioned there's a few pictures he took that we might want to look at. We said, what do you mean we? We're going to show you people out there also. And Dave took these pictures when he first came. And first of all, we're doing a look at this picture, which is the one that most of us are familiar with, because we sit facing our altar and our beautiful tabernacle. Now, over here, if you turn and look up at weddings and things, you've seen this section right here, all right? And that's what you're going to see again. There's our tall standpipes. Some of those are 12 feet high. Go on from there now, Dave. You continue.
I took these pictures when we came to do the survey, just to serve as a visual reminder for myself as I was drawing up what I wanted to do. A lot of these things you've seen, well, we were looking in here today. So these pictures are as I found it, as I was taking it apart in places.
So this is where the keyboard is right here.
Yeah, the keyboard's been removed in this
It's been removed, right. And there's the what do you call
The
those?
old draw knobs.
The old draw knobs that we saw on the count. They're right here. And this whole section is gone, all right?
Quite a few of the nameplates had to be replaced.
Do you buy those from a company, or do you make those?
No, I bought them from a company.
You don't print any better than I do?
A lot of rubble in the back of the organ there.
You know, I was kidding off camera, and I said, you know, if something were to go wrong with this, people would want to know who worked on it, and you could always tell them a pigeon did it or something. But tell me about that. Pigeons are a problem.
Well, yeah, and bats. Bats get down into pipes, they can't get out, they make a big stink, and the choir members don't like that.
Of course.
So they call us, and we have to get them out. Yeah, the pigeons got into St. Mary's Cathedral there for a while. They were roosting up in the organ chamber.
Dear, yes. There's an example of, that's the foot pedals, and the keyboard's right above there, right across here someplace, correct? It looks like.
What would you call it?
This is where the foot pedals right here?
Yeah, foot pedals are here. And these two units I got to put in today, they work for the preset unit. You can bring in a certain number of stops with one and bring quite a few of them off with the other.
And this is the reservoir
for
the air?
All of this section all the way back through here was split wide open.
All right. So he's a photographer too.
Yeah.
Dave.
Actually, this is a lot like darkroom work, you know. It
is.
Ensconce yourself there and go to it.
Dave, we really appreciate on this very, very short notice you're taking the time in this busy season to talk with us and give us your expertise.
Well, I very much appreciate the opportunity, and particularly for the parishioners who, after these panels go on, won't get a chance to have a look inside. So I appreciate your making a visual record of it.
Good. Have you met many of our parishioners?
Very few. Dave Blixt helped me a great deal.
Dave
some
helped
heavy
us a
lifting
great deal.
too, and,
Yeah, he helped
yeah.
us a great deal too. And of course, Father Susie is very easy to work with, and it's a pleasure. Now, for people out there, there's a lot of churches in the area. You aren't partial to Catholic churches. You do Protestant churches too.
we do wherever there's a pipe organ.
Okay. You don't do small organs or pianos. You don't tune any of those.
No, I don't know anything about electronics, and I'd like to get into pianos, but just haven't got the time.
Okay. There's always somebody out there that thinking about looking at their organ or doing something on these church organs. And how would they get a hold of Dave Rayville? And
Well, you can call Father Susie.
okay, all
got
right,
my
that's
address.
excellent. All right, okay, Father Susie, right here, St. Mary's Parish. That's 298-8244, I believe. And they could call you at what's your number at?
315-649-2216.
And it's Rayville, Raville.
Yes.
That's your home. You have no office. You operate out of. You operate out
I
of
have
your
a small shop in Brownville.
in Brownsville. That's near Chameau. I love that name.
Just up the road. Yeah.
Okay.
No phone there. Nice and quiet.
All right. Anything else? But you want to? This is your chance to pat yourself on the back. Oh, that was one thing I was going to talk about. Do you put your name out here so that I would know who worked in this organ?
Well,
And
I hope to eventually.
you told me that this particular brass plate says WAMF Smith, Yonkers, New York. You can't see that, I don't think.
I got to clean that up a bit.
You're going to clean this up, put it up, and you're going to try and put one of these up for yourself like this
Yeah, I'll
to show
put
that
it-
you've restored it.
I'll put it down with his there, and
I think it's part of history.
yes.
You don't have to hide everywhere. Your name in there all over. You've hidden it a couple of places already. Now you can have it right outside.
You hide it in there for the future organ builders.
All right. They said, I wonder what this guy looked like, right?
I wondered, yeah, or how they used to do the work in 1875. You know, what kind of tools they used.
All right. Tell me about tools. Do you ever find anything unusual in the back of those organs when you're working on it?
We did find a few interesting things once, but I was still working for Fred for the time, and he got dibs on them.
Right. No money back in there, anything like that, where people threw quarters up or anything.
No, it's just under the pedal boards.
You do find
Spare
they
change,
could
yeah.
fall through there.
Yeah.
All right. We've been talking with Dave Rayville, and I'm impressed because you say it was less than 24 hours ago. I advanced him as a possibility. He probably said a TV program, but he didn't say it out loud. And it's always nice to meet people who are willing to help us out like that. And you are helping us out because we know a little bit more today than we hope now that you've watched this, than you did before, of the complications and what a beautiful pipe organ. One more shot, Calvin, maybe from here if you didn't get it, where all those pipes rest on the top. You can see the diameters of the cutouts. And obviously the biggest ones go right in the middle, as you saw from the picture. They're kind of laid out in a symmetric form, and it's not just straight across.
Yeah, someone took the time to design that at one point.
Okay. Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching Hometown Cable. Remember, we're on every day, and one thing or the other, the Cast Iron Boys are bringing to you, or this Sunday program, What's Going On Here, at 1:15, 4:30, 8 p.m., midnight, and again the following morning at 8 o'clock. And I see this morning in this morning's paper, this Wednesday, that the several programs were mentioned on the first section of the first sheet of the second section. Is that going to be something that you're doing regularly, Calvin, for the next...
Steve's trying.
Steve's trying?
Steve sends it down, and Steve Manor, our local Press Republican reporter, is very cooperative, but what happens when it gets to Plattsburgh is, it's out of his hands, and most of the time it gets in there. So
About Wednesday, is that, if that's what he tries?
mail it to him on a Wednesday, so he gets it on a Thursday, then they put it in whenever they see fit, I guess.
Okay.
And also our sports coverage is also covered usually on a weekly basis in the sports area. I wish they'd put them together and let people see in one spot where everything is, but they don't see any wisdom in that, I guess, so they kind of break it up when it gets to Plattsburgh.
I don't think it's media competition at all, but Calvin's been doing this since about 1983. It's nearly 10 years, and it's nice to know you're going to get something. It mentions the Christmas programs and our program for next Sunday, which is going to be well, we're already going to buy it now, so I won't tell you about it now because you've already seen it by the time you see this one. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Okay. Welcome to Hometown Cable program. What's going on here? Bob Venn, your host, and our guest today is, if I call him Andy, he'll have to forgive me. It says Albert Morelli, not Junior or anything like that, right? Albert Morelli, and we're in his home here on, what's the street? Willow Street in the northern part of the village of Champlain, in French Village, we call it, huh?
Right.
French Village area?
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right, Albert, thank you very much for agreeing. We saw Albert the other day at the 50th anniversary of the elementary school, the building, and we got talking, and he said he had some other pictures. I had a few up, and we said, well, could we see those sometime? And here we are 2 days later, and
Right.
thanks very much, Albert, for that. Albert's involved in so many things that we're going to be going in a lot of directions this afternoon, and please bear with us because he's got all kinds of things. And first of all, we'll just name a few. Let's start out. You were born where, Albert?
I was born in Ross's Point, 32 Pratt Street.
Many years ago.
Well, 1923.
In Rouse's Point?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be 70 next year?
That's right.
Oh, you don't look that age. We don't think of you like that. And you have 2 children,
Right. I have Mary and Andy.
right? Andy Morelli and Mary.
Mhm.
And your wife is
Iona Laporte.
was
her
Iona
maiden name.
Laporte, and her brother, we can get him, is Merrill Laporte
Right.
from Cooperville. We kind of get this family together here.
Uh-huh.
And we'll start right off. Of course, your dad was pretty well known in Rouse's Point.
Yes, Dad was. Very active.
And it's
And
not true that he worked 73 years for the railroad, but how many
I
years?
I mean,
I didn't say you told me that. How
well,
many
I'm
years?
looking at the clipping Calvin had.
50 years, you said, at the
Yeah,
railroad?
a little over 50 years.
In Napier Junction?
Right. He started off at the D&H, then he went into Naperville Junction. Yep.
Okay. He was also well known because he was a judge.
He was a judge, and he was on the village board in Ross's Point. He's very active in the Legion there. He brought them back on their feet I don't know how many times. Yep.
Was he able to keep his son in line being judged like that, Albert?
Well, we always got along pretty good, Dad and I.
You did? How
Yeah.
many in your family? How many were there?
There's 4.
All right, we know that...
I've got 2 sisters in Florida, and my brother passed away a year or so ago.
Let's talk about
Westport.
your sisters. Let's talk about Agnes.
Yeah, she married Clifford Duquette, and they're living someplace down in Florida.
Yeah, lived on Spruce Street here in Champlain for many years, and Cliff worked at the shop also.
Mhm.
And another sister is who?
Yeah, Bernadette. She's married James Vallon. He used to be a border patrolman here. They're down in Florida, too. They're
And
living down there.
You're
He's
staying up here
retired.
and keeping the fires burning, though.
Uh-huh.
You go to Florida?
No, they've invited me down. The furthest south I get is Plattsburgh.
Well, save up some money. You got to save some money up to go down to Florida.
Go talk to the boss. She don't want to travel.
I mean, you can go with my wife. I don't care to go to Florida either, really. Okay, so,
I haven't mentioned what his father's name is.
well, yeah, we haven't said who your father's name is yet.
Frank S. Morelli.
Frank S. Morelli in Rouse's Point. Was he from Rouse's Point originally, too?
No, he came from Italy. A little town about 14 miles south of Rome. He came over here with his Uncle Angelo, and I think if you, when you get into the write-up on the railroad, you'll see the name of the place. His first job when he came here, he was water boy when they built Pratt Street in Ross's Point. And then from there, he worked with his uncle on the ice, coal, and wood business. And then he went into railroading, but he still hung on to the ice, coal, and wood business. His uncle got killed, and the ice and coal and wood business was left to him. And then when refrigerators started coming out and pot burners, then he started losing his business.
What year was that?
Oh my God, I was just a kid then.
Was that before the O.E. Southwick Lumber Company and so forth? And
No, Southwick was had his lumber company down in the end of Rose Avenue.
Oh, okay, so they were both there about the same time?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Dad's ice house used to be down on Rose Avenue on the right-hand side, about 3/4 of the way down, just past where Albert Antiel's houses are, and in there.
Okay.
And he used to cut ice right out straight there. And when he was ready to cut his ice, he had to send 1 cake to Albany, packed in ice. And they had to check it to make sure it was okay. Then he'd start cutting his ice after Christmas. And the reason why he'd do that, we'd go around pick up all Christmas trees that people were throwing out. And we'd use them for markers on the lake so
Yes.
skaters wouldn't go around that area.
Well, good idea.
And
yeah.
Peg's father used to do a lot of the cutting for him. He had a gasoline saw. He'd cut the cakes.
And you say Peg Barco?
Right.
Bedard, Mr. Bedard.
Yeah, Mr. Bedard. Bill Coash worked for him. Johnny Ducharme, Maynard Ducharme. oh my God, I forget how many, but and George Turtle, that's in Ross's Point. And in those days they had horses and sleighs. They'd bring the ice up in. And they'd come up chutes, load them onto the wagons. They'd come up to the ice house and they'd pull them up into the ice house, pack sawdust all around them. He'd get his sawdust up here at Kaufman's Sawmill.
See,
He also had an ice house right in back of where the bowling alley used to be down here. Dave Roberts
River
Bowling Alley.
Street, yeah, River Street.
And that's when the custom house